The element of fish is water. Fish cannot live on land. Fish only swim. It seems that all these statements are indisputable, but they're not. Nature knows how to surprise, and this time it surprised us with fish, which can safely be called terrestrial ones. They hunt birds and insects, do not hesitate to get out of their reservoirs, and even make small land animals shake with fear. Let's take a look at these natural wonders. In this episode, I'll show you predatory fish that even land animals are afraid of, and tell you about fish that are tired of living in water. Let's go! Archerfish. Take a look at these cute little fish. They look like the typical aquarium beauties. In fact, many people keep them in their homes. Archerfish are beautiful and small fish, but they also have a dark side. They are first-rate and very unusual hunters. Although archerfish are not considered typical predators, they are the real predatory creatures in their type of feeding and hunting. They love terrestrial invertebrates, fish, but their favorite delicacy is insects, which are afraid of archerfish. Archerfish literally shoot their victims right out of the water. The fish draws water into its mouth, takes aim, and almost always clearly hits its target. The water shot can be made from a distance of 6.5 feet. That's quite a shot. Archerfish are real snipers. Sometimes archerfish can hunt at hand-to-hand though. If the target's not too high above water, archerfish can jump out and grab its prey. Interestingly, archerfish almost always swim in schools, so while one sniper works on the surface, the rest are waiting for it deeper. The sniper's task is to swiftly catch the prey that's fallen into the water in order to get ahead of the schnorrer's congeners. Climbing perch. Archerfish, though ruthless snipers, are quite kind creatures. The same cannot be said of the South Asian climbing perch. By nature, it's aggressive, shrewd, and very voracious predator. It does not get along peacefully, even with their young congeners, and its enemies have a hard time at all. Even terrestrial creatures cannot relax. Climbing perches are not called climbing for nothing. If there's not enough food in its native habitat, the climbing perch goes out to hunt on land, repelling the tail, helping with the front and rear fins, as well as spiked gill covers. The fish is able to overcome a distance of 328 feet on the ground in an hour. Of course, on land, the climbing perch hunts small animals. There's no sense in attacking giants. But the giants are afraid of it all the same. The trick is the spikes. Any animal that tries to eat the climbing perch is doomed. Its sharp needles stick into the predator's throat and stay there forever. The climbing perch, though posthumously, can defeat a snake, a dog, a cat, a bird, and even a crocodile. Silver arowana. South America is full of amazing fish. Piranhas, for example, are a sight to behold. Piranhas have cool neighbors, silver arowanas. They're cool because they can jump out of the water to a height of up to 6.5 feet and catch land animals. The attack is so fast that the prey doesn't have time to understand anything. By nature, the silver arowana is a ruthless predator. It's completely indiscriminate in food, which means that it can pounce on anyone. Scientists have found that in addition to aquatic inhabitants, the silver arowana eats insects, spiders, crabs, frogs, as well as small animals of the Amazon region. Even snakes and birds have been found in the stomachs of the silver arowana. No wonder the locals call the silver arowanas water monkeys. It seems that these creatures are much more comfortable on land than in water. The same can be said about some other fish. There are some fish in the world that seem to be completely bored with water, so they often chill on land, climb trees, and even imagine themselves to be birds. Stay tuned to see all these amazing creatures that'll impress you. Mud skippers. Outwardly, the mud skipper looks something like a frog. Well, at least it seems that way to me. Apparently, it wants to become an amphibian just like a frog, or the mud skipper aspires to evolve into a full-fledged land animal at all. How else to explain its great love for the land? As a sea fish with fins, gills, and tail, the mud skipper quietly makes its way to the surface. On the wet mud, these unique fish find insects and crustaceans, which they feed on. Their special respiratory system allows them not to suffocate. The mud skipper consumes oxygen through the skin. It can live on land forever, but its skin is too delicate and needs constant moisture. The mud skipper has also one thing in common with land animals, and this is its limbs. Well, at least with pain and misery. The pectoral fins on this fish resemble hands. With their help, the mud skipper moves, and during the tide it can even climb trees and branches. They even dig burrows on land. Then they fill the burrow with water and rest on their favorite land, knowing that they will not be carried away by the surf or tide, and that they'll not be found by birds or prey. All in all, these guys are almost 100% ready for their final move to dry land. Well, some fish think of themselves as frogs, others dream of turning into birds. Flying fish are called flying for a reason. Members of this family of marine fish have unusually large pectoral fins that allow the fish to leap out of the water and perform a gliding flight. In fact, flying fish don't do this kind of flying for the sake of showing off. Basically, they jump out of the water in case of danger when a predator tries to approach them. However, sometimes they do show off, jumping out of the water for no reason. Not only the flight itself is impressive, but also its power. Flying fish can jump to a distance of 16 feet above water surface and fly for about 160 feet. And in some conditions, the flight range can increase to as much as 1,300 feet. No predator will chase this incredible fish after this. Firstly, a predator will simply lose sight of it, and secondly, it will respect such skills. We already had the mud skipper. There's one more leaping creature in this episode. The leaping blenny, also known as the jumping blenny, or Alticus saliens. It's found in the Indo-Pacific region. Mostly the leaping blenny can be seen in the coastal shallows of intertidal zones. The fish is nimble in jumping on rocks and clinging to rocks. Being out of water, the leaping blenny is able to breathe atmospheric air. By the way, its relatives from the Alticus genus are no worse. For example, Alticus arnoldorum, or the Pacific leaping blenny, spends almost its adult life on land, eating algae growing on coastal rocks. The fish has a coloration that allows it to blend in with the rocks and not attract the attention of natural enemies. In general, it feels even better on land than in water. However, this fish cannot live completely without water. Just like the mud skipper, it needs to moisten its skin, which plays the role of a breathing organ. If the fish misses the moistening procedure, it can die. Giant trevally. All the fish I've already shown today were quite small, so the giant trevally clearly stands out from them. This is indeed a giant. Its length is over 3.9 feet, and the weight can reach 66, 80, or even 132 pounds. It's not surprising that the giant trevally is a coveted target of many fishermen and participants in sports fishing. In between escapes from fishermen and their nets, giant trevally strike fear into its habitat neighbors. The diet of the giant trevally is very diverse. It includes both sea creatures and birds. Now, without reason, the giant trevally makes it into this episode of fish that do not sit still in the water. The giant trevally loves to hunt birds, and it does it very skillfully. It tracks down its prey, assesses it, estimates its weight, and makes calculations. Only after that, it flies out of the water, soars into the air, and catches the bird. In most cases, the hunt ends successfully. And if these fish gather in schools and hunt together, the chances grow to almost 100%. Low-flying birds have a hard time. African lungfish. If giant trevallies are adored by fishermen, then African lungfish are loved by real aborigines, the African natives. When there's a drought, the lungfish chooses a suitable place and digs a burrow. Usually, African lungfish choose a place among dense vegetation as a temporary home. African lungfish dig a hole for a reason. They're preparing for hibernation. If the mangrove rivulis is able to be out of water and lead an active life, then the African lungfish requires a temporary deep sleep. When the water level is 3.9 inches, a large African lungfish burrows into the ground. A small African lungfish hides in the mud when the water level is 1.1 inches. During hibernation, the African lungfish breathes through its lungs. Like any lungfish creature, it is a sort of double breathing system. Do you still remember that African lungfish are loved by the natives? Well, they seek out African lungfish and dig them up for tasty meat. They dig out the sleeping African lungfish together with pieces of ground, which are almost as hard as stones when the water bodies become dry. Surprisingly, this hard stone is a real fish. African lungfish get soaked when the rainy season begins. The water level in water bodies rises. African lungfish come out of hibernation and return to the water. That's all, guys. Which land fish impressed you the most? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you later.